What if the competitive edge in AI isn't the saturated world that we're dealing right now, but it's actually humans using better judgment? When data disagrees or the clock is ticking and the stakes are human, and leaders can win or lose in this environment if they're using AI incorrectly. So, welcome to the People Strategy Forum. I'm Sam Reeve, your host and CEO of CompTeam, where we help organizations design people centered total rewards that attract top performers. Today's topic is Beyond the Algorithm: Why Human Judgment Still Wins. Our guest is Brian Beckcom. He's a trial lawyer and a leadership thinker who helps people really spend the right time of their days being successful in high stakes situations. So Brian helps leaders balance the algorithms while they can work with humans, work with AI effectively, and of course do all this in an environment that's going to protect the business. So welcome, Brian.
Glad to be here, Sam. I really appreciate it. This is one of the artificial intelligence, computer science things that I'm super fascinated with. I imagine a lot of your listeners are, and I have been since I studied computer science in the early 1990s. So really looking forward to the show. Thanks for having me on.
Great. Well, yeah, likewise here, Brian. I know I've been waiting to talk to you for quite some time, so I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So, Brian, as we dive into the topic, let's first talk about you and your journey. Can you tell us a little bit about how you came to help the people that you help?
Yeah. So, boy, that's a, I get started in a lot of different places. So I'm 53 years old, and you and I, how old are you, Sam?
Yeah, I'm 55.
We're the last generation ever to have lived before smartphones, before social media, and after.
Yeah,
You and I, our generation has seen some things. And
no kidding.
I studied computer science back in the early 1990s at Texas A&M. I took a degree in computer science and another one in philosophy. I've been interested in technology since I stole the password for our computer science lab in high school and gave everybody an A. And it's been, people ask me, why? Well, I thought you were a trial lawyer, Brian, and I say I am. And they say, why? How do you go from computer science and philosophy to trial law? I say I spent 4 years in a computer lab with a bunch of nerds and dorks. I didn't want to do that my whole life. So I went to law school, and what do I do now 25 years later? I sit behind a computer with a bunch of nerds and do the same thing. When I first started practicing law, there was literally no online research. We had to go to physical books in a library. It's hard to believe back then how inefficient that was. It's been absolutely amazing for me to have lived through this time and to have seen leaps and bounds in technology. It's been remarkable and really cool to see it through the eyes of a lawyer and a business owner. That's a brief story about how I got where I am.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of things through our lives. I was at my brother in law's house the other day for the holidays, and he had his mom's typewriter in the corner. One of those manual typewriters you push the keys down, right, and strikes with
Yeah.
the arm. And I was like, when I can remember that being used by my parents. Here we are talking about robots, artificial intelligence, and spaceships going into orbit. It's a sci-fi world out there for sure.
Do you remember when you used to have these physical typewriters and you'd press a button and a physical piece of metal with literally a little outline of the font would or the letter would hit the page? Typewriters were big time technology when they first came out. Do you remember when they came out with the typewriter that it had one line of text and you could type text and then push a button and it would go and it would type it? Do you remember those things?
I do remember seeing those, but I've never used one myself. That was pretty high tech in the
That
high.
was so high tech because you remember there was something called liquid paper
Yeah.
where when we use the old-fashioned typewriters, if we had a wrong letter, we'd have to take some white paint with a little tiny paintbrush and paint over the letter, and then it would dry, and then you could put the right letter there. So being able to actually have a digital screen that shows you what you were typing and then push it and it go was like a huge advance, right? I mean, an incredible advance. The thing about technological advancement, generally speaking, is it goes up in an exponential curve for the most part. It's not a perfectly smooth curve, so there'll be jumps here and there, but it moves up exponentially. That's Moore's law, which is the idea that computing power basically doubles in a relatively short period of time. Moore's law held true for a very long time. The problem with Moore's law is right now we're running against the limits of physics. So you can only make electrons like and chips so small until literally the energy that goes through the circuit can't contain it anymore. So we're bumping up against Moore's law. But I predict AI is going to be exponential. The growth will be exponential. I can explain why I think that in a little bit, but hold on to your hats, guys, because we're like in the middle of an explosion right now. It reminds me of the story of the frog and the pot of water. You turn the pot of water on and the frog boils because by the time it realizes it's so hot, it can't jump out. So
Right.
we're in the middle of that right now. We are literally in the middle of an explosion right now.
Yes, and that frog in the hot water sounds like a pretty good cautionary tale our leaders should be thinking about. Going back to your story about the typewriter and correcting with the white tape or paste, I'm thinking about, back then we had to pay attention, right? We had to look at the details. Now, some professionals out there are, running with AI. It's putting out what it looks like beautiful text, and then they're not reviewing the detail. They're putting something out there that's whether AI is hallucinating, it's the wrong references, or it's out of context, and it's hurting their reputations. So, I mean, there's a lot of cautionary tales as we go through this growth curve.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And there's something interesting that I kind of like to ponder a little bit. So, what's your favorite fiction book of all time?
Geez, that's a tough one. I do like science fiction. I've been thinking a lot about 2001 Space Odyssey, things like this that are coming up right now because of the time we're in, and thinking about how they depicted what things would be like 20 years ago compared to what
Yeah,
they actually are. But
yeah.
yeah, I'd say one of those.
Here's why I asked the question. So, whoever your favorite author is, the best writer of all time, we're going to come to a time very soon where AI can mimic those writers. The question I'm asking myself is at what point do we get to the point where humans aren't able to distinguish between good writing and bad because all they see is a certain style of AI writing? Normally, if you produce something that has value, what that means is there was a cost to create it. So, a book like one of your favorite science fiction books, like 2001: A Space Odyssey, there's a great deal of human effort and energy that goes into that. If you can produce that with very little energy and very little effort, how are we going to tell the difference between what's a good movie and what's a bad movie? They're all going to kind of be homogenized. What happens with these AIs is, from an algorithmic standpoint, they're extremely recursive. Recursion basically means you have these loops set back, and the loops, if this, then that, then go back and do this, and then go back and do this. And so, what I found with the AI is the more you work with it, the more you train it, the more you do certain things, the more it kind of goes to the mediocre middle, is maybe the best way to put it. In other words, Sam Reeves' output's going to look the same as Brian Beckham's. And let me give you a concrete example of this. This is from my industry, but this could be from anybody's industry. I am a 25-year board certified practicing trial lawyer. I am really, really good at what I do. But what happens when a C plus lawyer figures out that they can go on to Chat GPT or whatever AI and say, "Hey, I'm not very good, but tell me what Brian Beckham would do." And it just goes and spits out everything I would do, right? My competitive advantage is I know the right questions to ask. Like my competitors don't really know how to figure out what is really important. In a trial, just like in a business deal, normally there's a real core that's important and the rest of it doesn't matter that much. The rest is just a distraction. I know what that important core is. So that's my competitive advantage. But what happens when the C-level lawyer says, what would Brian Beckham think was the most important thing to, and I do this right now. I've been collecting opening and closing statements of big verdicts for about 10 years from all these lawyers that I know and respect. And I've pumped them all into AIs and I've said, analyze these, tell me why they're persuasive, put forth a template, and then I want to follow that template for the rest of my opening and closing arguments. So I'm basically taking the brains of all these phenomenal lawyers and using their brains for my own purposes. What I'm kind of trying to figure out is where's the competitive advantage to being human and where are we no longer competitive with these machines? That's a really important question. The other important question to me, quite frankly, is from a purely thinking standpoint, are we going to have any advantages over these machines? Or at some point, are they just going to be smarter than us at everything? I've actually learned some stuff about that in the past couple of weeks. It's super fascinating that I'm happy to share with you, but I'll stop there because I've been going on for quite some time.
Yeah, well, Brian, it's hard to tell the future, and I do think that AI is going to develop to where it can really read the room. Like right now, what AI cannot do very well is understand the nonverbal cues that we see on a conference room or a courtroom. You see somebody sweat or start to shift in their seat or their expression on their face. I think some of this is difficult for AI to interpret at this time, and maybe it's not going to be that way in the future. But right now, I think that's one area we have an advantage. What do you think?
100%, although that's all easily, AIs are going to be able to do that easily, and it won't take long. And that's because that's all pattern matching and recognize. I mean, there's bookshelves, there's libraries full of books and instances about if your face moves in a certain way, that means you have necessarily a certain emotion or you're doing certain things, or if your eyes move in a certain way. Like AI can do that with no problem whatsoever. I'll tell you the interesting thing about AI and vision. That's a much harder problem, but you know how one of the ways they've been able to fix this is, have you ever gone online and a website has said, hey, I want you to prove you're a human, and then it'll have a grid of pictures and you have
Yeah,
to
that's
figure out
right.
what's what. Do you know why you have to do that? It's called a captcha. Do you know why you have to do that?
Why is that?
You're training AIs in vision. Like
Oh,
everybody thinks that's some sort of security issue, and it's not. What it is we've been crowdsourced, all of us, into teaching AIs how to see. So when you say bicycle, for example, AIs used to not, you ever see like somebody with a bicycle attached to the back of their car?
right.
AIs used to see that if it was in front of them as a car going straight and a bicycle going sideways. That's how they would
No.
see that. And with enough data, with enough people saying that's actually a bike attached to a car over time, you see it's not moving left or right. There's all these cues and stuff. That's now solved. So those problems are basically being solved by just throwing as much data and as much information as you can. The thing that is potentially insoluble, maybe solvable, but potentially not, is this notion of artificial general intelligence and what it really means to be intelligent. So there's also for different sorts of intelligence. Your thermometer is a freaking genius when it comes to figuring out how to maintain the temperature in your house, right? Your thermometer is intelligent, at least with respect to the temperature, but only the temperature. Chess engines are a million trillion times smarter than humans already, and they always will be at chess, but only
Mhm.
chess, right? And so the real interesting question, and by the way, this is nobody knows the answer to this. Nobody. Like, this is an open question in science. What is consciousness? What is the purpose of it? And how does it connect with general intelligence? And so I can tell you for an absolute fact that AIs have not reached general intelligence. I think everybody will agree with that. The question is, what will that look like? How will they do it? And what will it mean? That is the huge question. And I don't think it's going to be reading the room. I think the AIs will be able to read the room better than humans. The second they can read the room better than humans, they'll be able to read the room better than humans for the rest of eternity. Okay. So they can, because they're going to be able to walk into a room, to use your example, see everything instantly, process it a trillion times faster than us. have more data to rely on, and be able to think in parallel. Like they're just better than us at that. The real question is, will they develop a sense of consciousness, a sense of identity, a sense of theory of mind? I want to give you a real concrete example that I've experienced recently. I use AI a lot to help me with witness examinations. I have to do it personally. I'm not letting the AI do it, but the AI is really good at starting in and giving me ideas. In fact, I've noticed that about 60% of it is perfect the first time. Now, I've been working with it and training it a lot, but where it's wrong, this to me is the real insight, okay? Where it's wrong is it doesn't have a theory of mind. It doesn't have a sense that there's another human and it's creating questions for another human. So what it does is it'll create a list of amazing, 80% of the questions will be absolutely perfect. And then there'll be 10 or 20 questions and I'll look at it and go, what kind of autistic, weird, stunted emotional person would even think about asking another human being that question? And the AI has no clue, right? It just doesn't appreciate that it has. So the AI and I are interacting. It's been programmed to act human-like, right? But when we're referring to a third party, it has no sense of that. And
Right.
I think that's fascinating. So maybe they ultimately learn how to program enough psychology and behavioral science and all that into the AI where it can pretend like it has a theory of mind. But if it pretends well enough, what's the difference? If it pretends like it's conscious and none of us know, isn't that being conscious? I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that comes to another point where we can't tell the difference. For instance, us talking on the Zoom call right now, there might be a point where when we're on a call like this, it's a question, am I really talking to a human? Or
That is a deep, deep philosophical question. It has been for a very long time. And like I said, it's called theory of mind. It doesn't matter if we're on Zoom or not. You and I could be in person talking to each other, and I have no proof whatsoever that you're a conscious agent because the only thing I have any direct proof of is that I'm a conscious agent. I know I am experiencing something. I don't know if anybody else is. I assume they are because they're doing the same stuff I am. One of the great things about human intelligence is we start with the assumption that other people are having a similar experience and we go from there. That's kind of like the fundamental question. If you don't know the difference, what does it matter? Maybe it matters ethically. AI actually has a theory of mind and is actually having an experience and unplugging it. Is that murder? Maybe, right? But if it's just pretending, it doesn't matter. So, I mean, profound consequences based on how we view this problem. The other thing is, which I think is really interesting, Sam, is our brains are built on underlying organic material. With enough knowledge, we should probably be able to figure out how that material creates thinking and consciousness. We're not there, but we're getting closer. If we can ultimately understand that, can we build a non-organic machine that does the same exact thing? And if so, will consciousness arise in the same way? And if it does, are those things human? There are no questions more profound than these questions. AI raises questions that are the most profound questions we've ever faced as human beings.
yeah, and I suspect that we're going to be bridging some of this technology within the next 5 to 10 years for sure. Right now, let's just talk about the stuff that we're dealing with right now. I mean, there already a person can go into like using a tool to clone their voice, and it can be done indistinguishably, pretty much with not a lot of passion, so to speak, and inflection, but pretty much a serious business type voice. And then they can also go in and create an avatar of themselves, sitting down in a desk like you're sitting at right now with a microphone. The next technology currently being refined is agents that can act on your behalf doing certain things. And so it's not too long to where all that comes together, and you may be conversing with an AI avatar that you think is a person that is a true agent of their company and has the ability to strike contracts and so forth, and draw up a deal and send it to you via email. Is that company on the hook for that? If it's a avatar?
Great question. I don't know. I think it could be. Why not? Right? But again, and this is one thing that I completely lucked out on. All this tech stuff and philosophical stuff also has legal implications, like broad legal implications. And what is the law? The law is a statement of our ethics, of our collective ethics, like what we say is right and what we say is wrong. Those are great questions, and nobody knows the answer to those questions. You know how we're going to probably answer those questions? There's going to be people that give tons of money to certain congressmen that are going to pass laws. The congressmen, by and large, will know absolutely nothing about the technology itself. And the incentives in our system are geared towards maximizing profit. And so people are going to try to maximize profit by getting laws passed in their favor. That's the way the system works. It's worked that way forever. My personal view is at the end of the day, a human being should be responsible for everything, ultimately. One of the problems I see as a trial lawyer is corporations diffuse responsibility. So I know if I'm working at a corporation, I can't get sued personally. And I also know that I can make decisions that are going to be filtered up through the system, and ultimately all the responsibility is going to be diffused. So the great example of this is how was it that Ford built the Pinto when it knew it was literally going to incinerate families? Because the corporate form allowed it to do that. It's the same exact thing with these technology companies. How is it that we're building AI that could potentially kill the world? It's because these companies want to be first to market so they can make a profit. That's a realistic view of how the system is set up. Those are the incentives. We can debate whether those incentives are good or bad, but they exist and they're there. That's how things run. So it's always fascinated me that, and I don't want to name any particular technology moguls, but just think of your favorite technology mogul. Most of them aren't very good in technology. Look, they don't actually do the programming for the most part. What they're good at is business. Okay. So Elon Musk is like John Rockefeller. I mean, that's what he's good. Elon Musk is not a master coder. He doesn't build the rockets. He can't build the car, but he's a great businessman. Bill Gates cannot program a computer right now. Okay. He's unable to do that. Great businessman. But here's the thing is we think because these titans of tech industry are rich and they've had successful companies that that means they're moral or ethical or have some in the moral ethical area, and those two don't follow. In fact, often they're the opposite. So basically we're entrusting the keys to this technology to people that may or may not have our best interest in mind. I don't really understand that. I don't understand why you let somebody who started a social media company because they couldn't get a date dictate what billions of people see as their reality every day. That seems to me to be a bad way to run a society.
Exactly, for sure. Yeah,
We
it's
should let
crazy.
Elon, we should, because Elon Musk has a lot of money, we should let him dictate what everybody else thinks about everything. Right?
Yeah, that
Right?
seems to be the calling card for.
That's what we're
Yeah,
doing. It's the same
yeah.
thing with all of them. Because they have these Silicon Valley companies, we decide they're way smarter about everything than they actually are. I grew up in the 90s when all this computer stuff was blowing up. Here's the dirty little secret. It's all luck. Okay. Mark Zuckerberg was in the right place at the right time. Elon, Bill Gates, all these guys. It's just luck. It's not. They're super talented. Don't get me wrong. But if Musk stays in South Africa, doesn't come to Canada and then the United States, he ain't Elon Musk.
I think like what you said there, Brian, is being in the right place, right time, right situation, right technology. Yes, that's there's a degree of luck there, and I can see that. And also there's the talent. I mean, a person has to make the sacrifices and so forth to be successful. But as you said, does this mean that these are the individuals that are going to rewrite history or society? I think that everybody has a part to play there. Leadership has a part to play. And to come full circle to the intent of the podcast here is to really, what should leaders, what should they harness in AI and what should they be cautionary of with today's technology, especially when we're thinking about a business standpoint, risk, and so forth. What are the cautionary tales that you can say about what leaders should avoid in AI?
If you're not using AI, you are behind, period. You should have been using AI, and I don't care what business you're in, I don't care what industry you're in. You should have been using AI 2 years ago. If you're not using it now, you're way behind. Like if you didn't have an email address right now, people would think you were a hermit or you were a monk. But back in the day, oh, why would I use email? That's silly. Do you remember when the Blackberries came out with the physical keyboard, the little Blackberry device?
I thought that was super cool back then.
Super cool. And then they came out with the iPhone. Nobody will ever tap on glass. That's what they said. Remember? Nobody is ever going to do this. There's no tactile feedback. Every time a new piece of technology comes out, there's a whole group of people that will say, this will never die. They're always wrong. Every time they're wrong, sometimes for different reasons. But then here's the flip side of that, Sam. You the AIs will give you a big competitive advantage, but you as a human have to know how to deploy it the right way. I use AIs to help me start briefs. I use AIs with my diet, with my jujitsu, with my golf training, drafting discovery, opening statements, giving me ideas, helping me deal with my wife. You name it. I use the AI for just about everything, but I don't trust it. I verify everything it says. I can't believe there's lawyers filing briefs where they haven't even checked whether the case is real. That's just laziness, quite frankly. So it's a two-pronged message, Sam. You have to be familiar and conversant in AI if you want to be in any business from now until the rest of however long humans are around. There's a great saying, by the way, Albert Einstein says, I don't know what World War III will be fought with, but I know World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. So we're going to need AI until we have World War IV, whatever. But then the flip side is you can't trust it to be accurate about pretty much anything. It literally makes stuff up all the time. The stuff it makes up sounds like it's accurate. And so like we have to be actively engaged. The AI is not like, hey, go do this for me. And you come back and there's your product. It's like, hey, go do this for me. And you come back and you go, this is a good start, but there's a bunch of things I got to change. Part of the reason for that is because I'm a human and Sam, I know what you like better than this AI knows I mean, this AI is just
Right.
guessing at what you like. And I actually know what you like. So I'm going to be like, well, Sam is not going to, that's kind of weird the way that said that. I think all AIs have autism.
Yeah.
I think if we see it through, and I know there's different kinds of autism, but I'm talking about the autism where you have trouble connecting emotionally. AIs can't, like, it's all fake. Like, if an AI says, "Hey, how you doing today? Hope you're having a good day," there's no emotions actually occurring. That's just all phony
Yeah.
because it's trying to make you feel that way. There's autistic people that have problems connecting emotionally with people. Not all autistic people are like this, but some are. And that's what an AI is right now.
Hmm.
It's autistic in that way. So anyway, my message is get on the program, but don't trust it.
That's right. All
Yeah.
I think about is, using our artificial intelligence or working with artificial intelligence, kind of like how we do with a new employee. I mean, we don't know their skill set. We don't know how consistent they're going to be at work. We need to be diligent in checking the details and coming to a certain level of confidence with the output that they're providing. Now, and also with just like employees, they can have a bad day, get distracted. They can, maybe spend too much time. I mean, I'm not saying an AI might do this, but might spend too much time out with their friends partying in the night before and coming in and not performing well, right? Things like this that you'd have to watch out for a regular employee. I think that we have to do this with artificial intelligence as well. And it's just quality control, ensuring that we're doing good management.
Yep. Absolutely.
Now, one thing I want to talk to you, Brian, as far as, I did bring up a story earlier about a person cloning their voice, creating an avatar. Things like this are known to increase a person's productivity. Some leaders are doing this. Should that be something they should pursue with caution? What are your thoughts?
Pursue with caution.
Cloning their voice, creating an avatar in their own likeness.
I think that's okay. When I call you on my iPhone, you know how on the other end it picks up and it's like an image of you if you want it to be.
Right,
So
right.
I have an AI image. If I call you, you'll see my AI image. I also have every single firm photo at my firm for everybody that works for me is an AI image.
Hmm.
I haven't done it with the voice yet. The AI images that I use, and again, we're learning the ethics of this as we go, which is fine. That's the way a lot of things go. But I think as long as you don't try to play it off as something other than it is, generally speaking, that's a pretty good approach. So if you saw my AI image, you'd be like, that's a great picture, but I can tell it's AI, right?
Yeah,
Same thing with it's like I tell people the way I kind of think and wish I look.
yeah,
So, but it's obvious. The real moral dilemma is when people don't know the difference. So,
right.
and what are you doing there? Like what would I do? This would be it's incredible. What would you do if like all of a sudden on this side of the screen, another image of me came in and I said, by the way, this guy, the whole thing was fake.
Uh,
So what would you feel? You feel weird about that. You'd be like, this
yeah,
guy just kind of lied to me. It was a little deceitful. He didn't tell me ahead of time. I feel like I was fooled. Like you would feel those are bad, those are negative emotions, right?
right.
So I think at least right now, as long as we're clear with each other about what's real and what's not, which right now for the most part is pretty easy to figure out on your own. Even the voices aren't perfect. There'll always be a little pause or something's off, just a touch. And by the way, that's called the uncanny valley. You know what that is, right?
I've heard about that.
Yeah, so uncanny valley is C3PO, R2D2, obviously robots. Everybody loves them, thinks they're super cute, right?
Right.
As you get closer and closer to being a human, it gets creepier and creepier. The closer a robot is to a human, the creepier it is until you can't tell the difference. So Westworld, you can't tell the difference, right? You ever seen the show Westworld?
I love it.
Can't tell the difference. Now back up just a little bit and think of the most lifelike humanoid robot. You've maybe seen some of these videos of these like Chinese robots or something, and they look like humans, but not quite. And we're like, God, that looks so weird.
Hmm.
So the uncanny valley protects us. I think it's like an evolutionary thing. Like, unless it's perfect, humans have a real good sense of this shit ain't real. What I'm looking at ain't real. I can tell. I don't know why, but I can tell it's not real.
Yeah. So, but as we're wrapping up this conversation, what are the top things, Brian, that you would like leaders to walk away from when they're thinking about, hey, how do I use artificial intelligence in 2026? And what are the things that I should be reluctant about using artificial intelligence for?
You should use artificial intelligence for everything, would be my view. It's a skill using it. The more you use it, the better you get at it. Whether you can trust things, whether you can't trust things, how to prompt it, how to teach it. And you should use it for everything. It's like having an extra brain. Like I have an extra brain right now. I'll give everybody a short story. I'm 53. My wife just turned 50. We've been married for 25 years, happily married, three children. But she's going through some changes right now. And so am I, because our kids are about to be off. All of them, we're going to be empty nesters. And I'm trying to figure out how do I best maintain the quality of our marriage. So I sometimes will ask my AI questions about this. Sam, it's been transformative in the way I deal with things and in a positive way. At our age, Sam, we have all these patterns in our head, these that have developed over time, these ways of thinking. AI is a great way to break those patterns. So I can be like, hey, my wife went out the other night with some friends. She got home an hour late. I was a little perturbed about that, right? Normally I would have said, where were you? Why didn't you come home? Why didn't you text me? Yeah, I'm a little perturbed about this. Just when she comes home, say, hey, glad you're home. Happy you're here.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's like having another human to say, hey, here's where your thinking is a little bit pattern. It's a little too much of a pattern. Maybe you should do it this way. Think about it this way. And it's incredible. The way I think about it is it's like Google search a million times better. It looks out at all this stuff. If I were to ask Google the same question 5 years ago, how do I deal with my wife? What would it do? Pop a bunch of psychology articles. I'd have to read all of them. digest them. It'd be a couple videos of Phil. With the AI, it's literally like having a psychologist next to my side. I also have a doctor on call at all times. I was having a problem with my energy dropping in the afternoon. Here's what I'm eating. Here's what I'm sleeping. Here's what I'm doing. Try these things. Boom, 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 boom. No problem. I look at it like I have an extra brain.
Mm,
That's how I'd encourage your business leaders to look at it too. You have an extra brain available, learn how to use it.
right. So I think this is one of those times of advanced learning where we all have to dive, do the best we can, try to stay out of risk as much as possible, and move forward.
Yep.
It's important for us to do so to keep up with our competitors and our peers.
Yep.
So, Brian, tell me, what are you looking forward to in 2026?
I'm looking forward to becoming a better version of myself. And part of the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to have AI be my coach. So I want to I have this like idea, I don't know what the meaning of life, Sam, is, but I tell my kids like getting the most out of whatever talents, whatever you have, kind of maximizing whatever you've been given is not a bad purpose. I'm trying to maximize my talents and my goals to maximize those. I want to be everything I do. I want to get a little better at. I want to be a better lawyer. I want to be a better father. I want to be a better jujitsu guy. I want to be a better golfer. I want to read a lot. And AI is helpful for all that stuff.
I agree. I think that this is going to be my 2% year. Now, I can't remember
Wow.
the book that this came out, but it's just an extra 2%, just a little bit every day on everything that you're doing, just multiplies by the end of the year. I think that's my goal this year. And I think that we can use these new tools to really accomplish this, spending more time with family,
Yeah.
more time with friends, having better relationships. As long as we are taking that stance of really enhancing our humanity, I
Yeah.
think that's where it all comes out.
Agree.
Well, Brian, it's been a great conversation. Thank you so much for spending time with me today.
Wonderful, Sam. I knew when we talked not long ago that this would be a fantastic show. You're a great guy, really smart, and I'm just fascinated by these topics. So thanks for giving me a chance to spout some of my opinions.
No, I love it. I love it. Okay. All right. To all those that are tuned in to the People Strategy Forum, we'll see you next week. If you found this episode interesting, please like, share, and ensure you're thinking about that friend of yours that needs that boost that says, hey, you need to take a look at artificial intelligence and see how you can use this technology effectively for not only work, but your family and your life. So
Yeah.
I think that's what we need to do going forward. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week.